She ended a 10-year marriage with a text message. No call, no explanation, just 8 words. "It's over, Nate, don't call. I've moved on." An hour later, $300 million vanished from their joint account. By evening, the internet exploded. Photos of his wife in a wedding gown, kissing his best friend, the man who once stood beside him at every board meeting. Everyone thought Nathan Cole had lost everything. His wife, his fortune, his pride, but what the world didn't know was that she hadn't stolen from him. She'd walked straight into a trap he built for traitors, and while she toasted to her new husband under Greek sunlight, Nathan was already 10 steps ahead, watching her destroy herself with his silence. The morning sun slipped through the blinds, drawing golden lines across Nathan Cole's face as his phone buzzed on the nightstand. He reached for it half awake, expecting a message from the office, maybe an investor update, or one of those early congratulations texts that came with success. But what he saw instead froze him. "It's over, Nate. Don't call. You'll understand soon." That was all. No explanation. No argument. No goodbye. He blinked once. Twice. Checked the name again. Vanessa, his wife. A half hour earlier, she'd kissed him goodbye before catching a client flight to Paris. She'd smiled. She'd worn the diamond bracelet he gave her for their anniversary. Now, just 30 minutes later, she'd ended a 10-year marriage with a text message. He tried calling. No answer. He called again. Straight to voicemail, and then another vibration hit, this time from his bank app. A notification slid across his screen. Joint account $300,000 withdrawn. Nathan sat upright, his heart thundering against his ribs. He opened the app, balance 0. Joint account empty. The security camera in his home office pinged too, showing access from his own biometric login, remotely triggered. It didn't make sense. Unless, his phone buzzed again. A text from his assistant. "Sir, is it true? The news outlets are posting this." Attached was a link. Nathan clicked it, and the world collapsed in one slow, suffocating breath. A breaking headline filled the screen. Tech billionaire Nathan Cole's wife marries his business partner, Eric Harris, just hours after filing divorce digitally. The image below made his throat tighten. Vanessa, radiant in white, standing on a marble staircase in Greece, her left hand on Eric's chest, her right hand holding the champagne he once bought for their anniversary trip. The caption under it read, "The power couple that started as best friends." Nathan didn't move, didn't speak. He just stared at the photo as the clock ticked, each second cutting deeper than the last. For 10 years he had built his empire with the 2 people he trusted most, his wife and his best friend. Now both had cut him open, smiling while they did it. He stood, walked to the window, and whispered to himself, "You did this, Nate. You made it too easy." But even as the betrayal burned, there was no chaos in his eyes, no rage, no shouting. Only a stillness, the kind that comes before a storm. Because what Vanessa didn't know was that Nathan had seen this coming months ago. And while she thought she'd stolen his fortune, she'd only taken the bait. Before the betrayal, before the headlines, before the empty account, there was a man who believed too deeply in loyalty. Nathan Cole was not born rich. He built everything from a rented garage in Houston. One laptop, one dream, and one woman who believed in him. Or at least pretended to. He met Vanessa 5 years before his first big investment deal. She was an interior designer, talented, charming, and effortlessly magnetic. When he met her, she was struggling to pay rent. He offered to help her with a small contract. When she refused, he admired that pride. That night, they ate Chinese takeout on the floor of his half-furnished apartment. She laughed when he told her he'd be a billionaire one day. "Then I'll design your mansion," she said playfully, not knowing she would someday live in it. For years, Nathan worked 14-hour days. He never missed a rent payment for her studio. He helped her open her own interior firm. When his company went public, he gave her 5% equity, saying, "You helped me dream bigger, Vanessa. You deserve to grow with me." It wasn't romance for him, it was loyalty, gratitude, partnership. But for her, that moment quietly changed something. Loyalty turned into entitlement. Whenever Nathan worked late, she'd joke, "Maybe your code loves you more than I do." And he'd laugh, because he trusted her enough to believe she meant it as a joke. When he bought their penthouse, he added her as a joint signatory on the company's reserve account, not because he had to, but because he wanted her to feel equal. He even told her the passwords, the safes, the backup drives. To him, it was proof of love. To her, it was a manual on how to leave him and take everything. His friends warned him, especially Eric, his best friend since college. "You're too soft, Nate. You can't mix love and money. One will eat the other." Nathan only smiled. "If I can't trust my wife, what's the point of having anything?" Irony is cruel. Because years later, when Eric repeated those same words to Vanessa, he wasn't warning her. He was recruiting her. And while Nathan kept giving, more time, more access, more loyalty, Vanessa kept taking. He didn't see it, but she was already growing restless. Success had dulled the excitement. The man she once admired for his hunger now seemed boring in his calm. And Eric, bold, reckless, seductive, began filling the spaces Nathan left with late-night business talks, champagne, and soft betrayals disguised as comfort. By the time Nathan noticed the change in her eyes, it was too late. The kindness that once made her love him had made him blind. But blindness doesn't mean ignorance. Nathan had learned to read people, investors, competitors, thieves. He just never thought he'd have to read his own wife. That would change the night he checked his company's access logs and saw Vanessa's fingerprint opening files she was never meant to touch. And for the first time, his loyalty began to tremble, not from fear, but from awakening. Eric Harris had been in Nathan's life long before Vanessa. They met in college, one a dreamer with quiet ambition, the other a talker with a taste for shortcuts. They built their first prototype together in a cramped dorm room. But while Nathan spent nights debugging code, Eric was out at parties, charming investors, and flirting with anything that smiled back. Their friendship worked because they filled each other's gaps. Nathan was the brain. Eric was the mouthpiece. Nathan created, Eric sold. But over time, creation outgrew conversation, and Eric hated that. When Nathan married Vanessa, Eric hid his resentment behind toasts and laughter. He was the best man at their wedding, clapping the loudest when Nathan kissed his bride. But envy never claps, it waits. It started small. A comment here, a whisper there. "Man, you don't look happy lately, Nate. You're always buried in work. Vanessa deserves more time, more adventure." And when Vanessa complained about Nathan's long hours, Eric was conveniently there to agree. "He means well," Eric would say with a sympathetic smile. But men like Nate, they love their work more than their wives. He knew exactly what to say, not to convince her, but to let her convince herself. Vanessa began to confide in him, at first about Nathan's absence, then about her loneliness, and soon about her doubts. The meetings shifted from boardrooms to wine bars, from shared notes to shared glances. Nathan never suspected. Why would he? He trusted Eric with everything, from his business strategy to his marriage advice. And Eric played his role perfectly. He defended Vanessa whenever Nathan vented about her sudden coldness. "Give her space," he'd say. "She's adjusting to this new life. All the money, the pressure, and it changes people." In truth, Eric wasn't defending her. He was positioning himself. He started giving Vanessa expensive gifts, saying they were company samples. A diamond bracelet from a potential client. A silk dress for a gala she might as well look stunning at. Every gesture blurred a line Nathan didn't know existed. The night everything shifted was a charity dinner. Nathan couldn't attend. He was in Dubai negotiating a merger. Vanessa went with Eric in his place. The next morning, gossip blogs exploded with photos of them laughing, her hand resting lightly on his arm. Nathan didn't see the photos. Vanessa deleted the tags before he woke. But Eric kept a copy, just in case he ever needed leverage. Over the next few months, he fed Vanessa everything she wanted to hear, that Nathan took her for granted. That she was too smart to live in someone else's shadow. That together they could build something greater, something theirs. And by the time Nathan returned from a month-long expansion trip, the woman he called my peace had become Eric's secret weapon. The betrayal didn't start the day Vanessa left. It started the day Eric decided that Nathan's success was his failure. And while Nathan called him brother, Eric was already building the knife he'd soon use to carve him open. The first time Vanessa crossed the line, it wasn't with a kiss. It was with a signature. Nathan was in Singapore finalizing a global supply deal when she accessed the shared investment dashboard. To her, it was harmless curiosity. To Eric, it was an opportunity. "You're on the account, Vanessa," he whispered over champagne one night. "You're entitled to half. Why should you wait until he decides what you get?" Vanessa hesitated. "It's not like that, Eric. I just want security." "Then take it," he said. "You've earned it. You built his image. You deserve to build yours too." That night, under candlelight and temptation, she let him guide her through digital transfers and fund movements she barely understood. He told her he'd handle the paperwork. He didn't tell her it was fraud. Over the next few weeks, Eric's manipulation deepened. He convinced her Nathan was preparing to replace her name on the will, that he was moving assets offshore to hide them, that if she didn't act now, she'd be left with nothing when the inevitable divorce came. And Vanessa, blinded by greed and poisoned by lies, believed him. She began preparing her exit, a secret bank account, a new passport, an offshore villa booked under Eric's shell company. Every step she took brought her closer to destruction. Meanwhile, Nathan began noticing subtle shifts in behavior. Her tone, her silence, the way she avoided his eyes when he mentioned upcoming audits. The night she said she was visiting her mother in Atlanta, he saw the jet log. Destination: Mykonos, Greece. And the company credit card, charged at a private resort booked under Harris Holdings. He didn't confront her. He didn't accuse her. Instead, Nathan smiled and began quietly changing the locks she didn't know existed. He called his attorney, updated every power of attorney clause, and moved the company's assets into an irrevocable trust under his late father's name. He created a mirror joint account, identical in name, nearly identical in interface, but entirely under his control. And then, without saying a word, he let Vanessa keep believing she had access to $300 million that was already gone. When she finally made her move, it was flawless, at least in her mind. She signed into the joint account, authorized the wire transfer, and watched the confirmation bar turn green. $300 million gone. Eric kissed her hand. "It's done," he said. "You're free." That night they toasted to their victory. To them, it was the end of Nathan Cole. To Nathan, it was only the beginning, because every transaction they made, every email they sent, every document they forged was being mirrored, recorded, and time-stamped under a cyber monitoring protocol Nathan himself had built. He didn't need revenge yet. He was building evidence. Patience had always been his sharpest weapon, and as Vanessa and Eric planned their wedding under the illusion of victory, Nathan began crafting a silence so calculated it would echo louder than their celebration. When news of the betrayal broke, the internet crowned Vanessa and Eric the new power couple. Headlines called them the billion-dollar love story. Every tabloid, gossip blog, and finance magazine ran with the same photo: her white gown, his smug grin, and Nathan's absence. Comment sections buzzed with mockery. "Imagine losing $300 million and your wife on the same day. How clueless can a billionaire be?" Nathan didn't respond. He didn't release a statement. He didn't even attend his own company's emergency board meeting. He simply vanished. For weeks, no one knew where he was. No interviews, no sightings, no social media. His penthouse lights stayed off. His phone went dead. To the world, it looked like humiliation. To Vanessa, it looked like victory. But in truth, Nathan was very much alive, watching everything. From a quiet estate outside Zurich, he sat before 6 screens filled with live feeds, encrypted reports, and legal documents. Every transaction from his former company, now under Eric's shaky control, was being mirrored onto his servers. Every signature Vanessa made, every payment she approved, every luxury she flaunted, logged and time-stamped. He didn't need lawyers yet. He needed leverage. He learned that when someone betrays you, the loudest thing you can do is nothing. Silence unnerves the guilty. It turns their triumph into paranoia, and it worked. Within a month, Eric began to notice clients pulling back. Contracts they thought were secure suddenly fell through. Key investors were withdrawing. Behind closed doors, everyone whispered that Eric's leadership lacked vision, that the company felt unstable without Nathan's touch. Vanessa, meanwhile, was living like royalty. She bought a penthouse in Santorini, filled her Instagram with luxury breakfasts and white linen sunsets. Every post had the same caption: "Freedom tastes expensive." But beneath the filtered smiles, cracks began to form. She couldn't access certain accounts anymore. Funds that were supposed to arrive were delayed. Her assistant quit without warning, and Eric's temper started to flare. He was losing control of the business, and for the first time, Vanessa saw fear behind his confidence. "It's fine," he told her one night, pacing their villa. "He's gone. The board will come around. Then why are they calling me?" she snapped. "Why are they asking about missing audit reports?" Eric froze. He hadn't told her about the letters from compliance investigators, the ones demanding explanations for financial inconsistencies tied to her digital signature. That night, Vanessa opened her laptop to review the joint account again, and froze. The interface looked familiar, but the ownership line now read, "Primary Nathan Cole. Secondary Vanessa Cole revoked." Her hand trembled. "Eric, what did we actually take?" Eric's silence told her everything, and somewhere, halfway across the world in a quiet Swiss villa, Nathan watched her face appear on one of his screens, pale, panicked and powerless, and whispered to himself, "Now we begin." When you lose everything, the world expects you to disappear. Nathan Cole did, just not the way they thought. Under a new identity, Ethan Ward, a name no database could trace, he registered a startup in Zurich. To the world, it was a small AI solutions firm. To Nathan, it was revenge wearing a new logo. He recruited quietly. Engineers he once mentored, designers he once promoted, vendors Eric had underpaid. Each of them had their own grudge against Cole and Harris Industries, the empire now run by his ex-wife and his ex-friend. Nathan didn't have to convince them to join him. He just had to tell them who he was really building against. He funneled $50 million from offshore investments into the company, hidden behind layers of encrypted trusts. In less than 6 months, his firm, Ward Technologies, became the silent competitor that began undercutting Cole and Harris on every bid, every contract, every project. Eric never saw it coming. He blamed market downturns, he blamed the economy, he blamed his team, everyone but himself. But Vanessa noticed something. Every time they lost a contract, the winning bidder was the same new name, Ward Tech. Every investor who pulled out from them reinvested in it. And every system Eric tried to rebuild seemed to collapse faster than he could repair it. She started connecting dots, too late. Because while they were focused on money, Nathan was focused on control. He didn't want them broke. He wanted them powerless. Behind the scenes, he began buying out small shareholders of Cole and Harris, offering them quiet, anonymous deals at double their market price. By the time the board realized what was happening, Ward Tech owned 47% of the company, enough to control the votes in silence. When the first board meeting came, Eric swaggered in late, Vanessa at his side, still convinced they ruled the room. But the faces around the table looked different, colder, more distant. The chairman cleared his throat. "Effective immediately, all executive powers will be suspended pending review." Eric shot up. "What review?" "A majority shareholder has raised concerns about fund mismanagement and ethical misconduct." Eric laughed. "Who the hell is the majority shareholder?" The door opened. Footsteps echoed. A man in a gray suit stepped in, calm, sharp, eyes unreadable. Nathan didn't say a word. He just placed a folder on the table labeled Ward Technologies Acquisition Proposal and looked directly at Vanessa. She froze, every drop of color draining from her face. Her throat tightened, lips parting in disbelief. "Nathan?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Eric lunged for the folder, flipping through page after page, merger terms, acquisition documents, and a signed majority transfer. The final page bore a single line that made his blood run cold. "All assets, subsidiaries, and intellectual property now fall under Ward Holdings, a division of the Cole Trust." Eric's voice cracked. "The Cole Trust?" Nathan's silence was his answer. He turned, buttoned his jacket, and walked out. Every board member stood. Every camera flashed. Vanessa slumped back in her chair, whispering to herself, "He was ahead of us." The whole time. And for the first time since that text message, she realized Nathan hadn't lost control. He'd simply handed her the shovel and waited for her to finish digging. The news broke at dawn. Cole and Harris Industries, acquired overnight by Ward Technologies. Every financial outlet carried the headline. Every photo showed the same moment. Vanessa and Eric standing frozen behind the boardroom glass while Nathan Cole walked away. Within hours, the company's stock plummeted. Investors who once toasted with Vanessa stopped answering her calls. Her stylists, her assistants, her drivers, gone. She told herself it was temporary. That Eric would fix it, but Eric wasn't the fixer anymore. He was the liability. 3 days later, federal auditors arrived. The same digital trail Nathan had been collecting for months now sat neatly in their hands. Files of forged authorizations, illegal transfers, and falsified records, all signed by Eric Harris, and countersigned by Vanessa Cole. The villa in Greece was seized. Their accounts were frozen. Eric's passport was confiscated. Vanessa watched the agents search her wardrobe. Designer gowns, diamond bracelets all tagged as company assets. She tried to protest, her voice cracking. "Those are personal." The lead agent looked at her flatly. "So were the funds you transferred." That night the silence was unbearable. No music, no lights, no laughter. Eric sat on the balcony, a drink in his hand, staring into nothing. "He set us up," he muttered. "All of this. Every penny we took was his test." Vanessa felt the words like a knife twisting. For the first time, she understood the depth of Nathan's intelligence and her own blindness. When she checked her phone, she saw thousands of messages, tabloids dragging her name, influencers mocking her downfall, strangers calling her the text message wife. Her followers had vanished as quickly as her fortune. Desperate, she tried to reach Nathan. Her message was short, trembling. "Please, I was stupid. I'm sorry. Can we talk?" Minutes later, she received a reply. Not from him, but from his secretary. "Mr. Cole doesn't take personal calls." It hit harder than any insult could. Because Nathan's revenge wasn't loud and it was surgical. He didn't ruin her out of anger. He simply removed her from the world she once ruled. A week later, Eric was arrested at a private airstrip attempting to flee. Vanessa stood at the window of their nearly empty apartment, watching police lights fade into the night. For a long time she said nothing. Then, softly, almost to herself, "He warned me. I just didn't listen." Her phone buzzed again. A headline notification. Ward Technologies CEO Nathan Cole announces philanthropic fund for betrayed entrepreneurs. Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. She had nothing left to cry out. Just the echo of 8 words that had started it all. "It's over, Nate. Don't call. I've moved on." Now she wished he would. A year after she left him, Vanessa Cole stepped out of a taxi in a borrowed dress and trembling heels. Her hair was dull, her jewelry fake, but she forced a smile, the kind she used to wear effortlessly on red carpets. The event was the Global Tech Philanthropy Gala, the same one she once attended on Nathan's arm. Now she had come as a guest of a distant acquaintance, praying no one would recognize her as that woman. She told herself she just wanted closure. To see how far he'd come, maybe even apologize if she could. But deep down, she came to see if Nathan still looked back. The ballroom glowed with gold and glass, chandeliers reflecting in the marble like stars. Journalists lined the red carpet. Cameras flashed as the elite of Silicon Valley entered in waves. Then the whispers began. They always began the same way. "Is that her? The one who texted him? I heard she lost everything." Vanessa pretended not to hear. She clutched her clutch bag tighter, staring at the stage. Then the announcer's voice boomed. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight's guest of honor, Mr. Nathan Cole." The ballroom erupted in applause. Every head turned. He appeared at the top of the stairs. Tall, calm, immaculately dressed in a midnight black tuxedo. But he wasn't alone. At his side walked Lydia, the company's former accountant, now elegant, radiant, and poised. The same woman Vanessa once mocked as the invisible nerd who counts other people's dreams. They walked together, hand in hand as cameras flashed like lightning. Nathan paused, waved briefly to the crowd, then led Lydia toward their table, just a few feet from where Vanessa sat frozen. She felt her heartbeat in her throat. She wanted to look away, but couldn't. Lydia leaned in and whispered something that made Nathan smile. That smile, calm, confident, unbothered, cut deeper than any insult. The host began his introduction. A man who lost everything, and built it back from nothing. A visionary who turned betrayal into brilliance. Tonight's recipient of the Humanitarian Visionary Award, Nathan Cole. Applause thundered. Vanessa couldn't move. Her palms were slick. Her throat dry. Nathan took the microphone. "A year ago," he began, voice steady, "I learned the cost of trust. I learned that betrayal doesn't end you. It reveals who you really are." He glanced briefly toward Vanessa, just long enough for her to know the words were meant for her. "And to everyone who's ever been betrayed," he continued, "I'll say this. Silence is not weakness. Sometimes it's strategy." The audience erupted again, but Nathan wasn't done. He gestured to the LED screen behind him, the new logo of Ward Technologies glowing bright. "Tonight, I'm proud to announce we've officially acquired Cole & Harris Industries. We'll be restructuring it into the Cole Foundation for Innovation, dedicated to young entrepreneurs who've been robbed of their dreams." The applause turned into a standing ovation. Cameras swarmed. Reporters cheered, and Vanessa collapsed into her chair. Her world tilted as reality caught up with her. The company she'd stolen. The fortune she'd thought was hers. The man she'd discarded with 8 words. All now belonged to the one she betrayed. Nathan turned, eyes meeting hers across the crowd. For a heartbeat, time stopped. No anger, no triumph. Just finality. He gave a small, polite nod, the kind one gives to a stranger, and walked off stage with Lydia's hand in his. Vanessa felt her chest tighten as the applause thundered around her. Her tears finally fell, not from guilt, but from the realization that she no longer existed in the world she once ruled. He had erased her, not loudly, not cruelly, but perfectly. The morning after the gala, every news outlet carried the same headline: Nathan Cole reclaims empire, ex-wife and partner under investigation. Vanessa woke to camera flashes outside her apartment. Reporters shouted questions she couldn't answer. Did you really steal $300 million? Was the marriage a scam? Do you regret the text? She slammed the door and sank to the floor. Her reflection in the glass door looked nothing like the woman who once hosted charity galas. The diamond bracelet was gone. Even her phone had been seized as digital evidence. 2 hours later, federal agents arrived again, this time for Eric Harris. They found him at his lawyer's office, sweating through his shirt, shouting that he'd been framed. But the evidence was airtight. Forged signatures, offshore accounts in his name, falsified invoices, and emails that showed intent. Nathan hadn't needed to lift a finger. He had simply let Eric's own greed become the confession. As officers cuffed him, Eric turned toward Vanessa. "You wanted luxury," he hissed. "Now you can sell it at auction." Then he was gone, stuffed into a car whose doors didn't open from the inside. Vanessa tried to salvage something, anything. She called lawyers, begged investors, even emailed Nathan's assistant again. No reply. By evening, she was on the news herself. Vanessa Cole Harris under forensic audit. Assets frozen. Comments poured in, some cruel, some gleeful, all final. The next week dragged like punishment. Bills arrived she couldn't pay. Her luxury condo reverted to the bank. She moved into a small apartment near the edge of town, the kind of place where no one cared who she used to be. One afternoon, she walked past a television store. Every screen showed Nathan standing beside Lydia at a children's tech center opening. He was smiling. Not the tight smile of victory, but the calm of someone who'd finally found peace. The reporter's voice floated through the speakers. "Cole says the foundation is funded by the same assets once used to defraud him, now reclaimed for good causes." Vanessa stared until her reflection blurred with his image on the glass. For a moment, she whispered to her own ghost, "I ruined the only man who would have forgiven me." That night, a courier knocked on her door. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper bearing the seal of the Cole Trust. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. There was no legal threat, no insult, just a short typed note. "Rest easy. You owe me nothing. You already paid in full." And beneath it, in pen, one handwritten line. "Some debts can't be collected and only remembered." She folded the paper carefully, pressed it to her chest, and sank onto the bed. The sound of city traffic faded until there was only silence. The same silence Nathan had once used to end her world. Somewhere miles away, he looked out across the city skyline and exhaled. For the first time since the message, he felt weightless. Revenge hadn't restored what he lost. It had simply balanced the equation. Rain slid down the glass like melted silver, streaking the penthouse window where Nathan Cole stood alone. The city below hummed, taxis, sirens, the faint buzz of a world that had moved on. In the reflection, he could almost see the man he used to be, the trusting husband, the dreamer who believed love was safe. That man was gone. His phone chimed. A new message. He glanced at the screen. Vanessa, it was short. You win. I hope you're happy now. Nathan stared at the words for a long time. Then he typed back, slowly, deliberately. You taught me that happiness isn't about winning. It's about knowing who never deserved to play. He hit send. No hesitation. No regret. Then he reached into a drawer and pulled out a small black box, the same one that once held their wedding rings. Inside, folded neatly, was the printout of her first text. It's over. Nate, don't call. He added a new slip of paper beneath it, a copy of his final reply, closed the box, and placed it in the safe beside his father's will. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. Behind him, Lydia appeared in the doorway, soft-smiled, holding 2 mugs of coffee. You okay? She asked. Better than okay, he said quietly. Balanced. They stood together, watching the skyline turn from gray to gold as the rain eased and morning light spilled across the city. Down below, billboards glowed with his company's new slogan, Integrity builds forever. Nathan took a slow breath and whispered, more to himself than to her, let the past rest. He set the phone face down on the table, walked away, and never looked back again. She divorced him by text and stole $300 million. Unaware he was already ahead of her.